بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters, we continue with our reflections amazed by an ayah. And tonight's ayah touched the heart of an exemplary man. And I pray that tonight Allah blesses us that it touches your heart and touches mine. This man was the noble companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah ibn Umar, radiyallahu anhuma. And the companions were the greatest of generations, but their lives were not without problems and not without challenges. And it seems on this day, Abdullah ibn Umar had a difficult argument with his wife. And perhaps they had a history of some disagreement and conflict in their marriage, and he was so upset and disappointed he left the house, started walking in the streets of Medina, and had mostly resolved to divorce his wife. But rather than acting on impulse, he, radiallahu anhuma, he looked for some guidance. What would be most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What would be closest to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And he heard the recitation of this verse, the second half of the verse in Surat an-Nisaa, the 4th chapter, 19th verse. وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُوهُنَّ فَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. He heard the recitation, and dwell with them in kindness, meaning your spouses. So if you dislike them, if you dislike something about them, it may be that you dislike something and Allah causes much good to come from it. Abdullah ibn Umar, he took this as a sign. And he went back to his home and he reconciled with his wife. He moved past the disagreement and sought a solution. And after some time, his wife became pregnant and eventually gave birth to a son. This son was the great figure in Islamic history, Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar, rahimahullah. And Salim was a great scholar of Islamic history. He was the most scholarly of the children of Abdullah ibn Umar, who was a great scholar in his own right. And he went on to be a narrator of hadith and a person whose opinions in Islamic fiqh are recorded in the books, and a person who had monumental contributions to the fiqh of Medina and indeed the fiqh of the Muslim ummah. So when Abdullah ibn Umar would see him, he would say, Sadaqallah. Allah has spoken the truth. Because had he not reconciled with his mother, that son may have never come to him. My brothers and sisters, sometimes we look at other households and we think that people have no problems. But understand, there is no one in this room that is married to Khadija bint Khuwaylid radiyallahu anha. And there is no one in this room that has the angel Jibreel waiting at his doorstep. But also, there is no one in this room that is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Each of us is imperfect. And in our relationships and our households, we have problems. With our spouses, divorce is always there. It's an option. But it is not the only option. And sometimes Allah causes reconciliation and better to come through that path. If we have a family member that we haven't spoken to for 3 or 5 years, if we have a brother, every time you spot him in the musalla, you seek the furthest door so you wouldn't have to do the disservice of exchanging salam. It is time to cleanse the evil that has stained our hearts. This ayah teaches us that when we dislike something about someone, when we hate a characteristic, when we find something annoying, understand that Allah might cause a good to come from that person that you could never imagine and that He would not cause to come from you. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reconcile between our hearts and to cleanse us and purify us. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا اللهم آمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.